We've talked about certain Wi-Fi attacks like aiready as being kind of noisy, but what that actually means is that they're relatively simple and straightforward to detect with tools like Wireshark. Today, we'll jump into Wireshark and show you how simple it is to detect a simple jamming attack that most script kiddies will be familiar with on this episode of Cyber Weapons Lab. Most attacks against Wi-Fi networks, or IPA. Here we can see that the name of my wireless network adapter is WLAN0. So to put it into monitor mode, I'll type airmon ng start WLAN0. Now that will go ahead and turn into monitor mode, and we'll see that it is now called WLAN0mon. So to get started with Wireshark, we can go to the menu in Kali Linux and go ahead and select Wireshark here. And we should see a list of all the various network adapters that we have available to us. We can also see a little bit of activity happening in this graph here. So the first thing we'll want to work with is something called a capture filter. Now, the capture filter allows us to do certain things like specify which packets we want to keep and which packets are irrelevant to us, so we'll just drop and not save into the overall file. That cuts down on the size of this file, which can get extremely large if you're working on a network with a lot of traffic. So in this case, we're going to be looking into two different types of attacks, and if we want to detect them, we can use the following capture filter in order to exclude packets that we don't want. So we're going to type WLAN type MGT, and that will say that we want management packets only, and then we'll say and parentheses subtype DAuth or subtype DISASSOC, and then close parentheses. Oops, and I misspelled DAuth. There we go. So this capture filter will specify that we only want to receive management frames, so we can monitor for the kinds of attacks that we're looking for from this particular attack that we're looking at. So in this case, we're going to look at two different attacks. One of them is MDK3 and the second is AirPlay NG. Both of them will functionally work to block or jam a wireless network. Now, one thing that Wireshark cannot do that we'll have to do ourselves is actually set the wireless network adapter to a particular channel. Now, we can, if we want to scan through all channels, basically let it do that by using aiready to automatically scan, but in this case, we're going to set it to the channel we want to attack, which is channel 5. So to do that, we'll go back into our terminal window and type airmon, aiready ng WLAN0mon, and then tac-c 5. Now, once we start that, it will set our card to that channel, and we'll now be on channel 5 and not receive anything other than that particular channel. So that prevents us from seeing things that might be happening that are irrelevant to us, because generally a Wi-Fi conversation will all be on one channel. So let's go ahead and start, press return, and we should initially see nothing. Now that is good because it means that there's no attacks in progress, but let's go ahead and change this up by using MDK3 to start attacking this channel. So there is actually data being exchanged on this channel, we just don't see it because of the capture filter dropping anything that's not the kind of frames we're looking for. So we're going to say MDK3 WLAN0mon D for deauthentication, and then tac-c for channel 5. Let's run this attack and see if we see any indications. So instantly, we can see that the channel is being dominated by yellow and orange packets. Now, if you are just seeing regular colored packets that aren't special in any way, that's because I've applied a special filter in order to be able to tell the difference between deauthentication and disassociation attacks. Now, if you go into View and then Coloring Rules, you can see that I've used the following display filters in order to basically highlight different types of attacks. Now, for the disassociation packets, I've typed MDK3 attack because only MDK3 uses disassociation attacks in order to achieve its goal, whereas orange filter right here for AirPlay NG is for disassociation or MDK3 because both of these tools use this type of packet. Now you can change the color by clicking on them and adjusting them here, and anything you want to stand out you can pretty much highlight in this way with a filter rule. So I'm going to click OK, and now I will stop the attack and hopefully we should see the attack cease. So now that we've gained some visibility into what an attack looks like, we're going to go ahead and fire off a different tool and see if we can get a different sort of reaction. Now this is a good opportunity to use a display filter, and the puzzling thing is that a display filter
that we're going to be using for our brute force attack. I'm going to demonstrate how to set this thing up and how to use it, so sit back and let's do it. Because I'm going to be doing this in a virtual machine, I cannot take control over my computer's network card. I have to use a USB solution for my virtual machine for it to recognize the network device. That being said, not all network cards are going to be supported by this distribution of Kali Linux. For Reaver, I recommend using a USB network adapter for the network solution. Specifically, those types of network adapters have to have the Atheros chipset for Linux to recognize it natively without needing to have any type of drivers. Other than that, if you've got those things, you got the operating system, you got the USB solution, let's go ahead and get started and show you guys how to use all this stuff. First thing that we're going to do is start up the wireless adapter. Make sure that you, inside the virtual machine settings, go ahead and connect the USB adapter to the virtual machine through the software. So now it's actually connected to the virtual machine. So there it is. Wi-Fi driver has been started. Now we're going to go ahead and search for a network to attack. And I'm going to go ahead and choose the network that I own, which is, I named it Slow Internet, so nobody feels like they want to hack some slow internet. Go ahead and copy that MAC address. And we're going to go ahead and use this command and insert our own MAC address into the middle of it. And go ahead and fire the gun. So this will get started. Be patient. It takes a long time to go ahead and get the right pin number. So what it does is it just asks the router, hey, is it this pin? The router will most likely say no, and then the program will move on to the next pin until it finally lands on the right one. Sometimes it could take anywhere from 5 to 6 hours to 5 to 6 days, so it's gonna have to be patient. Well, that's it. I'm gonna make a video on how to actually protect yourself from a type of attack like this. There's actually a way to do a scan for all the MAC addresses you've got on your network and then try to identify which one is not the one that's supposed to be there and go ahead and block that thing for good, so you can watch your Netflix or whatever you do on your network. So yeah, I thank you for coming, and I thank you for stopping by and watching and staying all the way to the end.